कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदादतं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः। श्री रामकृष्ण कथामृत, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, द्वितीय दर्शन चतुर्थ परिच्छेद। Sri Ramakrishna is inquiring of M, the recorder of the Gospel. Well, are you married? You have children? And when he said yes, Sri Ramakrishna says, "Oh, Hare Ramlal, he is married, alas." We should remember that this does not mean Sri Ramakrishna is disapproving of marriage and begetting children. What he means is, unless you keep your mind in God, something higher, it is not necessarily God, but something higher purpose in life. Life is not simply meant for eating and sleeping and sense enjoyment and socializing. Life is something bigger, something vaster, something more serious. So unless you keep your mind on something higher, your life will become meaningless. What he emphasizes here is that having been born as a human being, every one of us has the responsibility to seek a higher purpose in life. This is a fundamental requisite of every human being who has been endowed by nature, by God, with the power of discrimination, power of discernment between what is changeful and what is changing, what is temporary and what is permanent, what is ephemeral and transient, and what is permanent and eternal. And chasing the fleeting, ephemeral things all life, you end up in tremendous dissatisfaction and frustration. Dissatisfaction is called tripti, santosha in Sanskrit. And tripti, santosha comes to you ultimately when you realize the changeless, immortal spirit, which is your real nature. So the scriptures like the Upanishads and the Gita talk about Atma Santushta, Atma Tripta, and so on. A person who is completely satisfied in his own higher self, who is absorbed in his higher nature as consciousness absolute, bliss absolute, existence absolute, Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa, he alone crosses over the trials and tribulations of life and ultimately conquers death, the most terrible prospect of every person who has been born. We, living beings, born, living, ultimately moving towards death. As Longfellow, the great poet, said in the Psalm of Life, art is long and life is short. Though our hearts are stout and brave, still like muffled drums are beating funeral marches to the grave. Art is long and life is fleeting. We may have very stout, brave hearts. Every one of our heartbeats is likened by the poet to the drums which beat when you go in a funeral procession. At the time of death, when your body, a dead corpse, is taken for a funeral procession, drums are being beaten, every heartbeat while living is like the beating of the muffled drum during your procession to the funeral. We are moving steadily towards it. It is not to scare anybody away. It is not to frighten any of you. It is not to put negativity in you. It is just to remind ourselves that life is short and the vanities of the world are transient. Unless you have a higher purpose in life, unless you realize something which is eternal and immortal, in the midst of all the mortal and non-eternal changeful things, your life is meaningless. As the Kathopanishad says, Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman tamatmastham yenu pashyanti dhiras tesham shanti shashvati netaresham tamatmastham yenu pashyanti dhiraha tesham sukham shashvatam netaresham. Shashvatam sukham, shashvati shanti, eternal happiness and eternal immortal peace. These can be attained only when we realize our higher, immortal, changeless, eternal nature as a supreme consciousness. So when Sri Ramakrishna alerts M about marriage and children, what he means, you take care of your wife and children, serve them as much as you can, but remember there's a higher purpose in life. Don't get simply caught in the mire of worldliness. That was the caution. It is not to scare away, it is not to deride, degrade the life of a householder in the world. Householder's life is one of the greatest. It's called Shrestha Ashrama and Jeshta Ashrama. Jeshta is the oldest and Shrestha is the greatest. Everybody depends on the householder for his or her sustenance. This is the beauty of the householder's life. Then what is the meaning of Sri Ramakrishna's chiding M, as it were, that he is married and has children? That means, having been born as a human being, chase something which is higher, have a higher goal in life. Don't simply get caught in worldliness. And M says his ego got a shock, which means Ramakrishna knew that M was very proud of his wife and children, perhaps, and he had to be awakened to a higher purpose in life. This awakening is given by the great teacher, the Sadguru, the real illumined teacher who gives you the awakening. He jolts you out of your dream, he awakens you, and he puts you on the path to immortality. So he is called the bridge to immortality. Amritasya Setuhu. The Sadguru, the divine incarnation, is the bridge which connects the mortal being to immortality. So he jolts him out of his slumber, awakens him, and the awakening takes place in the form of a quick thrashing, pulverizing of his ego. The first shock. Then comes the second shock when he asks M, what kind of wife do you have? Is she Vidya Shakti or is she Avidya Shakti? Meaning, is she a person who will help you along the spiritual path, or is she a person who will drag you down to sensuousness? Is she a helpmate in your mission of accomplishing spiritual realization by knowing your real nature as the Atman, or realizing God? How helpful is she? M did not understand at that time the meaning of Avidya Shakti and Vidya Shakti. Avidya, ignorance; Vidya, knowledge. This is a unique contribution of Sri Ramakrishna to the philosophic thought of the Sanatana Dharma. Shakti can be of two types. The Avidya Shakti binds you to Maya, and the Vidya Shakti releases you from Maya. And the same power, same Shakti, which binds you also releases you. This is the beauty of the Tantra. Tantra texts say it is the Divine Mother, the supreme power of Brahman, which puts you in Maya in one form, and the same Divine Mother, supreme power of Brahman, who releases you in a different form. The Chandi's famous statement, Jnanina amavichetamsi devi bhagavati hisa balada krishyamaya mohaya mahamaya prayachati. Jnanina amavichetamsi, even the minds of people who are illumined, awakened, not fully perhaps, but they have got the conviction of the higher truth. Jnani. Here it should mean a person who is well versed in the scripture, who has an idea of the higher purpose. Even the minds of such people are deluded by Mahamaya, by the Divine Mother's Shakti, and when she becomes pleased, then she grants liberation to the person, the jiva, from the bondage of ignorance. Taya visrijyate vishvam jagate taccharacharam saisha prasanna varada nrinam bhavati muktaye. This Divine Mother, the power of Brahman, she creates the world, the universe, she sustains, and finally she dissolves this universe. And when she is pleased, she grants liberation. In the form of Vidya Shakti, she liberates. In the form of Avidya Shakti, she binds. Sri Ramakrishna is asking M, what kind of wife do you have? Is she Avidya Shakti or Vidya Shakti? Once again, the pride of bookish knowledge which M had at that time makes him blurt out, well, she is good but ignorant. Agya bhalo kintu agyan. Sri Ramakrishna sharply snubs him. Virakta hoiya, ar tumi jnani. With irritation, displeased, Sri Ramakrishna snubs M, and you are a man of knowledge. See how the Sadguru demolishes your ego. The great God, Brahman, appearing as the spiritual teacher, pulverizes your ego, demolishes your I. In this case by M, it applies to all of us. I am a learned person, I have studied so much, and you are proud of your knowledge. And you are a man of knowledge. M, being a very highly evolved soul, a companion of the Avatara Leela, the Parshada, immediately realizes the mistake. And he says, M did not know at that time what was knowledge and what was ignorance. He imagined that study of books will give you knowledge, and one who has not studied a lot of books will remain ignorant. His wife, for example, had not gone to school or college or university. She had not studied a lot of books. Therefore, M concluded she is ignorant. And he himself, being a product of the university education, studying a lot of books on philosophy and history and literature, thought himself to be a great jnani. He records with great humility, because his ego is getting pulverized step by step by the divine touch, harsh touch, compassionately harsh touch of the Avatara. All of us also should enter into the shoes of M and beseech the Avatara to crush our ego. M realized later on, he confesses, that to know God alone is knowledge, and not to know Him is ignorance. Second time, his ego got a severe thrashing. Then Sri Ramakrishna asks him, do you believe in God with form or God without form? Once again, M's intellectual arrogance was rudely shaken. He thought to himself, what is this strange question? If God be with form, who can He be without form? On the other hand, if He be with the form, how can He be formless? Can a white liquid like milk be black at the same time? How can these contradictory characteristics of formlessness and formfulness inhere in the same substance which you call God? He had not studied any such thing in his books. And the intellectual pride which he had till then got rudely shaken by this question of Sri Ramakrishna. He hesitantly answers, well, sir, I like to think of God as formless. Sri Ramakrishna immediately says with compassion, oh, that is excellent. If you are devoted to one aspect, that's good enough. But do not think that God cannot have a form. He is with form, He is without form, He is beyond form and formlessness, and how many things besides. Tini Shakar, Tini Nirakar, Shakar Nirakarer Pare, Aro Koto Ki. This is a very fundamental doctrine of Sri Ramakrishna. Never put a limit to the infinitude of God. Tini Ananta, Take Pavar Potho Ananta. the Lord is infinite, and the paths leading to Him are also infinite. Infinitude cannot be measured by the finite intellect of a human being. Sri Ramakrishna used to give a very telling example. The pen picture which he used to paint is remarkable, so telling, so vivid, so natural. There was an ant which was hungry and wanted to go to a sugar hill to pick up a grain of sugar. The ant goes to a sugar hill. Obviously, you can imagine what a sugar hill could be. A sugar hill contains billions and trillions of grains of sugar. This little fellow goes there, eats one grain, and the little stomach is filled, and takes one more grain in the mouth, and while walking back, looks at the hill and tells himself, next time on when I come, I will drag the entire hill and put it in my small little hole. What a telling example. Our little intellect now says, I can find out the limit of God. God is with form, God is without form. Quarrel, dissension, acrimony, animosity. Between people who claim God has no form or God has a form. God smiles and says, why do you, my children, quarrel? I am with form, I am without form. I am beyond both form and formlessness, and how many more things besides. Sri Ramakrishna says, even Shukadeva, one of the greatest of saints, who was a Paramahamsa since birth, is also an ant, only a big ant. And he says, Satchidananda Sagara, the ocean of Satchidananda, limitless expanse of the ocean, is so vast, so deep, so infinite, nobody can find the breadth and the depth and the vastness of this ocean. Shuka, the great Paramahamsa, has not even touched the ocean. And the great God of gods, Mahadeva, Shiva, drank 3 sips of water from the ocean and fell down flat as a shava, as a corpse. That means the vastness and the infinity and the majesty and the depth and intensity of this ocean of Satchidananda, limitless, is inexhaustible and therefore incomprehensible with the human mind. How much can you understand? Be humble. If you have understood just a particle of what He is, then you are blessed. Sri Ramakrishna also used to say, you have come to the orchard to eat mangoes. You have come to the mango orchard, and rather than plucking some delicious mangoes and eating them, you start counting the leaves and the trees. How many number of trees are there in the orchard? How many branches? How many leaves? How many twigs? How many fruits in each of these trees? Endlessly you go on searching and searching. Finally, you end up knowing nothing about God. You take as much of God as you can really feel and digest, and your life is blessed. Don't quarrel about what he is. The great poet Pushpadanta, the Shiva Mahimna Stotram, to the end he says, Tava tattvam na janami kidrishosi Mahaprabho Yadrishosi Mahadeva Tadrishaya Namo Namaha. O God, Mahadeva, Ishvara, I do not know your real nature, your tattva, the principle which you are. And I do not know what you are. Your intensity, your extensity, your depth, your majesty, your glory, your infinitude, I really can't understand, I do not know. And therefore, what do? Whatever you are, to that entity, I bow down with humility. Yadrishosi kripa sindho tadrushaya namo nama. O ocean of mercy, whatever you be, which you alone know, to that entity I humbly offer my obeisance. That is the real understanding of the Supreme Spirit. So Sri Ramakrishna tells M, you stick to one thing. If you believe in God without form, that's good enough. Stick to it. Believe in it. Be convinced about it. And try to dive deep into the ocean of God's majesty and beauty and realize Him. Doob thou, doob thou, doob thou. So many times in the Gospel of Ramakrishna, he says in the Kathamrita, dive deep, dive deep. Dobo, 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 roop, shagare, amarman. It's Ramakrishna's favorite song. O mind, dive deep in the ocean of God's beauty and majesty. Simply floating on the surface will not give you anything. Kabir Das, the great saint, wrote, Jin dhunda din paiya gahara pani pait, mai bora dooban dara raha kinare bait. Whoever investigated, searched, dived deep, he got the precious jewels lying in the depths of the ocean. I was a fool, I was stupid, and I was afraid to dive deep, and therefore I kept gazing at the ocean, sitting on the bank, and I returned empty-handed, getting nothing. Doob de re man kali bole, hridi raat na kore ogad jole. In that great ocean of Kali, O mind, dive deep, dive deep. Ratana manika koto pore ache shei jole. Tumi dam samarthe ek dube jao. With courage of conviction and with depth of understanding, a deep devotion, you dive deep and then you will get all the jewels that you want. So many Ratna, Manikya, all the jewels are lying there. The varieties in which God manifests Himself. Dive deep, dive deep. Don't simply float on the surface. This is a very fundamental teaching of Sri Ramakrishna. So he says, stick to one idea which appeals to you the most. The most liberal doctrine of Sri Ramakrishna Whatever appeals to you, take it. But do not fanatically imagine that all the other ideas of God are not correct. God chooses to manifest Himself in innumerable ways according to the predilection and the taste of the devotee. If the devotee wants to think of God as with form, he manifests as with form. If you want to think of Him without form, He manifests as without form. God has no problem, but man has a problem. Man tells another, oh, you are stupid, you are ignorant, you are uneducated, or illiterate. Why? You are worshipping the God in this stone, in this tree, in this river, in this snake. You do not know that God can't be limited to this. Nobody says God is limited to the stone or the tree or the river. Only the devotee says, my inability to be able to think of Him as vast and infinite forces me to think of Him as manifested in this stone. Oh God, I can think of You only in this stone, or Shivalinga, or Shaligrama, or in this tree, Ashwatha tree, or in this river, Ganges. Can You please compassionately reveal Yourself to me in these objects? God says, oh, you are my child, you want this? All right, I am coming. See, I am manifesting in this stone, the Shivalinga. See, I am manifesting in the Shaligrama Shila. See, I am manifesting in this river Ganges. See, I am manifesting in this tree, Ashwatha. Whatever way in which you want me to manifest and to reach me, I will reach you there, don't worry. You don't have to look for me, I will look for you. You walk towards me and I will reach you there and reveal myself to you. Sri Ramakrishna says, if the devotee walks 1 foot, God takes 10 steps to reach him. In whatsoever path a devotee wants to meet God, God comes and meets him in that path in the way in the devotee wants it. This is the most liberal doctrine taught in the Bhagavad Gita. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tans tathaiva bhajamyaham mama vartman vartante manushyav partha sarvasha. Swami Vivekananda quoted this verse in that famous speech in the 11th of September 1893 at the Parliament of Religions in Chicago in America. Ye yatha mam prapadyante, whosoever approaches me, worships me in whatever way, tans tathaiva bhajamyaham. I also reach him in that path and meet him. Mama vartman vartante manushya. All the human beings in this world are walking in my path. Mama vartman vartante manushya partha sarvashaha. Always, everybody is walking in the path of God. Even a wicked person, so-called, walking in the wrong path, he is also walking in the path of God, because God meets him in that path, makes a course correction, and redirects him to a higher destiny. Why should you and I get perturbed? Oh God, this man is worshipping you in this stone. I am very much worried about him. This is the fourth statement by Sri Ramakrishna. The first, when he chided him about marriage and children, M's ego got a rude shaking. Aghat peche. That's what he says. It was not crushed, but it got rudely shaken. It got a big snubbing. Second, When M was asked the question whether he believed in God with form or without form, M's intellectual pride got crushed to some extent because he never knew that God with form and God without form can be true of the same reality. He didn't get it from his books. So he got a tremendous shock. His pride, ego started collapsing. Third, when Sri Ramakrishna asks him about his wife, and he answering she is ignorant, Sri Ramakrishna rudely shakes his ego and snubs him, saying that you are a man of knowledge. M did not know what was knowledge and what was ignorance. Later on, he came to realize that knowledge of God alone is knowledge, and not realizing God is ajnana or ignorance. Then comes the last blow, which completely pulverized M's ego to smithereens. What was that? M is arguing. Since his ego was not fully crushed, he dared to argue with the master. তাহার অহংকার তৃতীয়বার চূর্ণ হইতে লাগিল, কিন্তু এখনো সম্পূর্ণ হয় নাই। তাই আবার একটু তর্ক করিতে অগ্রসর হইলেন। This is a tendency of all human mind. We, being proud of a little knowledge, keep arguing with people who are illumined. You should never argue with a man of knowledge, because he talks out of the depth of his realization, whereas you and I talk from our bookish understanding of a little stupid intellect. Remember this. Never argue with a man of realization, because he actually sees God, realized him, and then talking from that point of view. You listen with humility. You may gently ask questions. Questions are not forbidden. Pariprashna is very important, but proudly entering into a kind of argument with a tendency to defeat the opponent in the argument, that will meet with tremendous catastrophe, as it happened in the case of M. Remember, M is a representative of humanity. All of us are M. He begins to argue. Since his ego was not fully crushed, even after 3 blows, he begins to argue. Master, Agya তিনি সাকার এই বিশ্বাস যেন হলো, কিন্তু মাটির প্রতিমা তিনি তো নন। What an interesting conversation. Such a simple truth is being emphasized in such a simple language. That's the beauty and the sweetness of this great text, Ramakrishna Kathamrita. He says, M says, sir, well, a person believes that God is form. That is true. But he is not that clay image which is being worshipped. তিনি মাটির প্রতিমা তো নন. By the time he has completed the sentence, even before he completes the sentence, Sri Ramakrishna cuts him sharp and says, Mati keno go, Chinmayi Pratima. Meditate on this one sentence. Chinmayi Pratima. These 2 words comprising a phrase. Chinmayi Pratima. Chinmayi, full of spiritual consciousness. Pratima, image. It's not image of clay, Mrinmayi Pratima, but the image of consciousness, image of spirit. Chinmayi Pratima. Swami Vivekananda used the phrase with regard to his own master. Chidghanakaya. His kaya, his body, was condensed chit or consciousness. It is not that consciousness has entered into this image, but consciousness itself is the image. Chinmayi, Mayat Pratyaya, full of, complete with, totally, overwhelmingly it. Chinmayi Pratima, Otaprota, overwhelming, interpenetrating, saturating, percolating every bit of it. It is just made of Chinmaya, Chit, Chidghanakaya. M could not understand what was Chinmayi Pratima. We see a Pratima, we see an image, and we think it is Durga or Kali or Ganesha, and we worship it. We offer fruits and sweets, we wave lights, and we treat the Pratima image as if it is a living embodiment of consciousness. But Sri Ramakrishna says that it is not as if it is Chinmayi Pratima. Master Chinmayi Pratima bhujite parilenna. M could not understand the phrase Chinmayi Pratima. Bolilen, Acha, jara mater Pratima puja kore, tader to bujhiye deva uchit je, মাটির প্রতিমা ঈশ্বর নয়, তার প্রতিমার সম্মুখে ঈশ্বরকে উদ্দেশ্য করে পূজা করা উচিত. Typical argument of an intellectual like us. Confused intellect. Sir, I do not understand what is Chinmayi Pratima, that's what he implies. But those who worship the clay image should be educated, should be told, should be enlightened to know that the image that they are worshipping is not God per se, Ishvara, and in front of that image they should keep the idea of God and worship the God and not the image per se. That is the essence of his argument. Look at Ramakrishna's answer, how he tackles this question. We should make the other man understand, we educate him, enlighten. Once again, we, the intellectuals, philosophical, spiritual people, should bring light to everybody, arrogance. The ego comes in and says, I have understood this poor fellow worshipping a clay image, worshipping a stone. This lady, absolutely illiterate, superstitious, is worshipping this stone. This is the arrogance of educated people, so-called educated people like us. They are called Buddhijeevi in Bengal. Intellectual people who sneer at everything, who derisively talk about faith, worship and so on. Kusamskar, that's a very standard phrase in Bengal of the Buddhijeevi intellectuals. These are superstitions. Unscientific. What is science, sir? How much does science know? How much has science discovered? Science does not even know the nature of the tiniest of the tiniest of the tiniest of the tiny virus called COVID-19, the coronavirus. What is the nature? Nobody knows. By the time the scientists and the biologists and the great intellectuals and Nobel laureates, blood, toil, tears and sweat, great difficulty discovered a vaccine at the end of a year and a half. Smilingly, the virus has changed its nature and shape. They say double mutation and a new variant. And the scientists are aghast, confused, flabbergasted, frightened. That is the level of our intellect. How much do we know? We do not know the nature of the smallest of the small virus. And we talk big about understanding the infinite God. So let us be humble. We know very little of the world itself. Physics does not know what is the nature of matter. Biology does not know what is life. What is life? What is non-life? Where do you draw the line? Sir Jagadish Chandra Bose, the famous physicist, biologist, made experiments to show that you can't really demarcate life from non-life. You can't say life is this far and beyond this is non-life or dead matter. You can't say anything. So what is the demarcation between life and consciousness? Matter, life, consciousness, are they three different things? Demarcated carefully and closely, watertight compartments, or are these three a continuum of something which we really do not know, can't define? That's something called the Spirit or Brahman or God, manifests as matter, manifests as life, manifests as consciousness. Therefore the Upanishad Rishis said, Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, Atma. Atman manifests, the consciousness manifests as Annamaya, matter, Pranamaya as life, Manomaya as the mind, Vijnanamaya as a higher intelligence, Anandamaya as consciousness per se. And beyond Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya is the supreme spirit called Brahman or God, whose nature is indescribable, ununderstandable. This is a conclusion which India reached long ago. What happens to you when you realize this? Etad annamayam upasankramati. Etad pranamayam upasankramati. Etad manomayam upasankramati. Etad vijnanamayam upasankramati. Etad anandamayam upasankramati. He goes beyond the annamaya, pranamaya, manomaya, vijnanamaya, anandamaya, and intuits that which is beyond, not fully, perhaps we don't know. He becomes it. Brahma Veda Brahmaiva Bhavati. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example. A salt doll went to measure the depths of the ocean. What happens to it? Who will come back and give the news about the ocean's depth? You, in trying to understand, know the ocean, you become it. Now question, has the salt doll known, realized the ocean? The answer is yes and no. Yes, because it is completely merged into the ocean, and therefore it has, of course, realized the ocean. No, because there is no salt doll to feel and say and realize that it has known the ocean. The ocean has been known, realized, not an object by a subject called the salt doll, but the ocean has been realized as subject objectless, universal, indivisible consciousness. Akhanda Satchidananda Swarupa, Vijnana Ghana Ekarasa, homogeneous ocean of awareness, Vijnana. These are terms which are used, and the Upanishad, with great trepidation, uses these words because there are no other words which can use. Naneti bhitya shrudayo vadanti. In one of the hymns to Sri Ramakrishna, the great poet Pramadadas Mitra says, Neti neti, not this, iti, like this, Shrutayo vadanti bhitya. Out of tremendous fear, the Shruti, the supreme authority called the Vedas, out of great fear describe this supreme truth, the avatara, as not this and not this. Naneti bhitya vadanti, out of fear. You can't describe the infinite as this and not that, and as this and this, or not this and not this. You simply become still and silent. Upashantoyam atma. The Atman is ultimately stillness, tranquility, peace. Shantam Shivam Advaitam Chaturtham Manyante Sa Atma Sa Vigyeyaha. That is the Atman that needs to be known. Shantam Shivam Advaitam. Shantam, peace. Shivam, auspiciousness. Advaitam, non-duality. It is one without a second, akhanda ekarasa, homogeneous, indivisible whole. So Sri Ramakrishna says, you want to explain to people what they should know about God? M, proud M, with his knowledge of books, a representative of educated humanity, not truly educated, but educated through books, wants to bring light to people so that they can be educated. Swami Vivekananda writes in a letter, bring light to the ignorant and bring more light to the educated, because they need it much more than the ignorant people. Educated people need to be re-educated in the spiritual culture. All your books about science, all your book study about philosophy and literature and history and sciences cannot reveal to you the Supreme Spirit. These are called aparavidya and paravidya in the Upanishads. So Swami Vivekananda says, these people need more light. Because the ignorant person knows that he does not know and therefore he can be educated. But the educated person thinks that he knows and therefore he can't be educated unless he realizes that he does not know. So the Upanishad says, Yasya matam tasya matam, matam yasya na vedasaha, avijñātam vijānatam, vijñātam avijānatam. Kena Upanishad. He who thinks he knows does not know. He who knows that he does not know alone knows. In essence, there is an incorporeal voice, Ashariri Vani, which said, Socrates is the wisest man on this earth. Immediately people rushed to Socrates. Oh, Socrates, congratulations. The incorporeal voice has declared that you are the wisest man on earth. Socrates thought for a while and said, I? Wisest? How is it possible? After a while he said, perhaps the voice is right, because I perhaps alone know that I do not know. To know is to know that you know nothing. Socrates said this. I know nothing is a supreme knowledge. There's a story of two people who went to a great musician like Bhimsen Joshi, etc. The great musician told them that my charges are very high, can you afford it? Sir, somehow we want to learn from you. The first person said, Sir, I do not know anything at all. Please do teach me. Then I said, all right, I will charge you 1,000 rupees per month. Then I said, it's a little high, but still I will try to manage it. The second person said, Sir, unlike my friend, I know a little. I have learned a little, and I want to know more from you. Then this great musician said, in that case, my friend, I will charge you 2,000 rupees. He said, Sir, he said he knows nothing and you charge him less. But I said, I know something, but you're charging me more. Then the musician smiled and said, yes. 1,000 rupees for teaching you exactly in the same way as your ignorant friend. 1,000 rupees for making you unlearn what you have already learned. Because you think you know, and therefore it's very difficult for me to teach you unless I make you realize that you do not know. The story in Zen Buddhism, the master teaches the disciples through tea party. One disciple is sitting there, and the Zen master is pouring tea in his cup. The cup is half full, 3/4 full, then full. And even then the Zen master keeps on pouring tea. And the disciple is shouting, Master, what are you doing? It's overflowing. The Zen master smiles and says, did you get the message, my child? The message is, if you think that you know, whatever teaching I give you will overflow. Empty yourself first. The first condition of spiritual knowledge, humility. What is humility? Emptying yourself of your preconceptions, your prejudices, your so-called knowledge, your ego. Empty. Crush your ego out. Empty yourself. Empty the mind to reach the immeasurable. The immeasurable can't be held in a mind which is already full with ideas and prejudices and bias and preconceived notions. Empty yourself. So this process of emptying is called sadhana. And this is the primary emphasis on all kinds of sadhana. In the Bhakti Shastra, devotional practice, you tell God, Naham, Naham, Tuhu, Tuhu, not I, O Lord, but you. You empty myself, I crush myself to nothingness, and may you alone dwell here in my heart, you fill my heart. Naham, Naham. In the path of Jnana, it is Soham, Soham, I am that infinite self, and my little ego is a non-entity, is a zero. Either you reduce yourself to zero through the path of bhakti, or you realize there is the infinite Satchidananda Swarupa in which the ego is completely lost and it is melting in that ocean of Satchidananda. Girish Chandra Ghosh, the famous poet and dramatist, and a staunch disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, once said very wittily and thoughtfully, Mahamaya, the world bewitching Mahamaya, enchantress of the world, threw her net to catch two people. Both of them escaped. How? One was Nag Mahashaya, Durgacharan Nag, the humblest of the humble devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, who became so small, erased himself completely and totally into a zero, so he escaped through the meshes of the net. The other was Swami Vivekananda, who became so vast and so infinite that the meshes of the net could not catch him. So infinity is the path of jnana, and zero is the path of bhakti. In both of them, it is the ego which becomes completely non-existent. It vanishes. So this great exercise is being accomplished in the very second meeting of M with Sri Ramakrishna, where the Yugavatara, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, is operating on the ego of M. And 1, 2, 3, the fourth operation, M's ego is completely demolished and pulverized. And he becomes fit to be taught. Same thing which happened to Arjuna when he completely collapsed and cried out, Karpanya dosho apahata svabhavaha pruchhami tvam dharma sammudha chetaha yat shreyasyan nischitam bruhi tanme sishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. I am asking you, beseeching you, please teach me. I am your disciple. I have completely surrendered to you. My ego is completely crushed and pulverized into smithereens. May this great power, Yugavatara Sri Ramakrishna, crush our ego and completely demolish our littleness and narrowness and the ego sense, and fill us with infinite bliss of Satchidananda, is the prayer. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukampa Dhrutavigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamidyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namamaha. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.